Now, your name is often mentioned as a potential successor to the UN Secretary-General, Antonio Guterres, but it is an institution that's facing a real historic challenge. Funding cuts hitting hard, but also the US president establishing a parallel institutions that some believe is an attempt to supplant the UN. Can the institution survive this crisis?
I would say that the world cannot live without the UN. So the UN will survive. The big question here is how the organization will survive. And I think that the shorthand for that is reform, transform, or die. No, and it's an organization that it's, as you mentioned very well, facing financial and liquidity crisis, but it's the symptom. The real problem is that the UN needs to reinvent itself because it was designed for a different reality, to face different challenges. And we live in a world that is extremely volatile, but has to face from climate shocks to massive displacement, international organized crime, more than 60 active armed conflicts around the world. So the budget cannot go down. It has to go up, but the organization needs to prioritize. There are many efforts ongoing, but I think that we really need to rethink the organization, to revitalize the organization, and to prioritize. Prioritized action has to come, of course, from member states. And there are ongoing processes like the UN 80 initiative, which is I would say it's a must initiative because it's a cost-cutting exercise.
You mentioned this shifting geopolitical landscape, that it's a new world. Where do you see Europe's role in this new world? Some would say it's losing its diplomatic clout. Would you agree?
I think Europe has a vital role to play in the whole multilateral architecture as a bridge builder, as a principled multilateralist. It has had an important role. It has to continue having an important role as well in leading with the financial crisis, but also in looking at the future and what are the issues where the UN is best at. There are challenges in today's world that cannot be replaced by another organization. Let's only think about the 190 million people that are served by the UN through the humanitarian deployment infrastructure. The UN cannot be replaced on that front, but it can work in a more networked, more collaborative way with regional organizations, with cities, with other actors that are out there that did not exist 80 years ago.
And you mentioned cities, and I want to ask you, because you're here in Brussels for the Cities Alliance Assembly, and specifically to talk about how the geopolitical context, the fraught geopolitical context, is playing out in cities. Tell us more about that.
If you look at conflict, if you look at climate shocks, if you look at displacement, if you look at poverty, the microcosms where you can all see happen real time, it's in cities. If you look at the current conflicts right now, either Lebanon or Ukraine or Sudan, you see that where crisis hit the most, especially in conflict situations, is urban settings. And yet investments are low and are not enough to serve the needs of people in urban areas. 1 billion people living in slums and extreme poverty. This is not a world that we want to live in. There is a responsibility there. There is an investment responsibility. There is a policy responsibility. I think the UN is well placed, but local governments, organizations like the Cities Alliance that has an incredible track record in working on urban poverty.
Okay. Maria Fernanda Espinosa, that's all we have time for, I'm afraid. But thank you so much for joining us this morning in the studio.